WESN.
Cervical cancer continues to be one of the most common cancers among females. The majority of new cases and deaths occur in low to middle income countries. In Trinidad and Tobago, cervical cancer still remains a serious health problem, ranking the third most frequent cancer among women in this country. But did you know it is one cancer that can be prevented? The World Health Organization has called for a global initiative for the elimination of cervical cancer as a public health problem before the year 2030. How does Trinidad and Tobago stack up against other countries in achieving this goal? Today, we speak to Dr. Vanessa Harry to get the facts on how to prevent cervical cancer and protect our girls, the methods of screening, and so much more. Want radiant skin and endless energy? Vitamin B2 or riboflavin is your go-to nutrient. It helps your body break down food for fuel, supports cell growth, and keeps your skin and eyes healthy. Energy metabolism. Like B1, riboflavin helps convert carbs, fats, and proteins into energy. Healthy skin and hair. It reduces skin inflammation, prevents cracks on the lips, and keeps hair strong. Sharp vision. B2 protects your eyes from cataracts and light sensitivity. Where can you find vitamin B2? Dairy products, milk, yogurt, and cheese. Vegetables, spinach, kale, and broccoli. Eggs and meat, chicken, turkey, and beef liver. Almonds and mushrooms, small but powerful sources. Since vitamin B2 is water-soluble, your body doesn't store it. You need a steady intake every day. A deficiency can lead to cracked lips, sore throat, and fatigue. For healthy skin, sharp vision, and lasting energy, don't forget your vitamin B2.
I am Dr. Delphina Ovid, your friendly neighborhood dentist. At Community Hospital Dental Clinic, we offer examinations which include x-rays, basic oral cancer screening, and a treatment plan. We also offer cleanings, fillings, extractions, root canal treatment, and complete and partial dentures. Remember, you don't have to brush and floss all your teeth, just the ones you want to keep.
Give us a call at 235-5479.
The Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist,
where good private health care is affordable.
This is 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson. The distance from where we should be in the world in going forward on our commitments with climate change.
The effects of climate change that cannot be accounted for, it's called loss and damage. And we're seeing loss and damage happening so much more in this decade the previous decade.
The principal term there was this question of the correspondent banking issues.
That is why we're trying to build capacity with this country here, Trinidad and Tobago, and other countries in the region. Man is not showing any signs of stopping or even slowing down. More than half of the forest in Trinidad is already gone.
All the plants and all the animals and all of the nice clean water and fresh air and everything had to be on this planet for humanity to have a chance.
We have small change when it comes to countries that can take decisions, and when they speak, the world listens.
The General Assembly is a very democratic forum. And Trinidad and Tobago has the same vote as Canada, in spite of the obvious difference in size.
We are tackling the hard-hitting topics, some controversial topics, some topics we sweep under the rug. You don't always have to forgive in a relationship for it to move forward.
If it is you are in a situation where you forgive the person, but to the detriment of yourself, what are you really doing?
It is very uncommon for somebody in the younger age group to have dementia.
Atheists don't not believe.
Is that I can't disprove God, but you also can't prove God, so we kind of have to stalemate.
We'll focus on the woman who's being the victim,
right,
or the man who's being the victim. We exclude the children.
Folks are trying to study the underlying brain mechanism to figure out how does this particular disorder happen in the brain? How is the brain processing this?
Don't worry about AI, worry about humans working with AI.
Are you willing to learn new skills to stay relevant for the future job market? That's the challenge that people are going to struggle with.
So we're here to talk about cervical carcinoma or cancer of the cervix. So first off, explain to us exactly what is the cervix, where is it in the female genital tract?
Right, the cervix is actually part of the womb, so part of the uterus. It's a very important part because what it does when you're pregnant, it keeps the pregnancy intact inside of the womb.
Right.
So it's really the neck of the womb, but everyone knows the cervix because that's what dilates when you're in labor. So when you are 4 centimeters dilated or 10 centimeters dilated, you're actually speaking about the cervix.
Okay.
Unfortunately, cervical cancer is a very common disease in Trinidad and Tobago, but it is the one cancer I can actually
in this cancer with 2 colorectal.
Yes.
And then
yes.
we have cervical cancer.
Yes.
So it's something that we need to pay attention.
Yes,
how, if a woman has cervical carcinoma, how would she present?
Actually, she may have no symptoms at all. So you may be happily at home, not knowing you might have the early signs or the early stages of cervical cancer. So the first thing is that it can be completely without any symptoms or signs.
And I like that you underscore that. It can be silent.
It can be completely silent. You don't know you have it at all. But the beauty of picking up this disease, which is the one cancer I can prevent, is there is a very simple test to prevent it. We can even pick up the cells before they become cancer, and that's a pap smear.
So before we get onto the pap smear, so I know, yes, I agree with you, there are a few, majority of women would be asymptomatic, as we say, because it's silent.
Yes.
But then you do have some women with symptoms in the reproductive age group. How would they present if you do have symptoms of...
So it tends to be any kind of bleeding problem that is not what you're used to.
Right.
So irregular bleeding, that's not your normal period. It could be bleeding in between the periods, bleeding after sex, or your periods have become just heavier than normal, or even in the post-menopausal age group, they can get bleeding after menopause. So after not having periods for years and years, all of a sudden, wake up one morning and you have a small bleed, that is a warning sign.
I must say, I've had a few patients, menopausal patients, who would have been in menopause, established menopause for years.
Yes.
And mention by chance that they had a few episodes of spotting here and there, but it's okay, doc. It's fine.
Yeah.
They don't even think it's a problem. Should they be concerned if they're in menopause and they have, you know, periods of light spotting or even heavy spotting?
So it's not meant to happen at all,
Good.
not even one drop, not even one spot after menopause, which by definition is periods have stopped for 12 months or more, then it's never meant to come back. And I get that a lot too. You're waiting for it to happen a second time. You've noticed a few spots. You think,
Yes.
I'll just keep an eye on it for now.
Yes.
But as soon as it happens, it does need to be investigated. Now, I think a lot of women get worried and afraid because what if it's something abnormal? Chances are it is not. Chances are it could just be menopausal changes, but it must be investigated.
So who's at risk for getting cervical carcinoma?
There are some risk factors, for instance, cigarette smoking, women who have a compromised immune system such as HIV, women who actually have multiple partners, but I feel that is something that we should never stress because you could have one partner all your life and still get cervical cancer. I like to think the greatest risk factor is actually never having a pap smear because you could have all those other risk factors. And if you've never had that simple test, which is a pap smear in your life, then you are at risk of getting cervical cancer. So we shouldn't really stick to the connotation of it being an STD or a sexually transmitted disease or something that only a proportion of women who are a certain way should do. This should be something that all women should do. Once you're sexually active, you need to have a pap smear.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but cervical carcinoma, it's been shown that it's the long-term outcome from persistent infection of the cervix as a result of certain strains of the human papillomavirus, HPV.
Yes.
Could you just explain to us, in simple terms, what is the relationship between HPV, human papillomavirus, and cervical carcinoma? Is there a direct causation there?
There is, yeah. HPV, as you said, which is a virus. You can only get this virus through sexual contact. It is a very prevalent virus worldwide. It is estimated about 80% of women have been exposed to HPV in their lifetime. But not all of those women will end up with cervical cancer. As you said, there are high-risk types and there are very low-risk types. But HPV is indeed the direct cause of the majority of cervical cancer cases.
So we know that the root cause of that, we can, as you had rightfully said, there are things that we can do as women, as society, to prevent this from actually happening at all.
Yes.
Which is
screening. So cervical cancer screening, where we ask the entire population of women within a certain age group to please come out, go to your GP, go to your health center, go to your gynecologist, and do a simple test, which is the pap smear. Yes, it's an intimate examination. You might feel a bit shy, you might feel a bit embarrassed, but it literally takes about 30 seconds to do the test. I would describe it as mildly uncomfortable. It is not painful at all. And we get so much information from it. And now the pap smear has evolved into not just a pap smear, we can actually do HPV testing on that specimen as well. So we can find out not just if your pap smear is abnormal or normal, category then.
Right. What age would you start or recommend that women start doing a pap smear?
So ideally, it should be the age you start having sex. We tend to say from age 20 onwards until 65. You can stop at 65 only if you've been really good and religious about doing them.
How often are you supposed to be doing it?
Ideally every 3 years, and if available and if your doctor has it, you should do pap smears plus HPV testing.
Okay.
That is the international recommendation, that you should do both of them. And if they are both normal, you don't need to have it again for 3 years.
All right, I understand. So we're starting at the age when you're sexually active, whatever age that is for your particular female.
Yes.
And once it's normal, we repeat every 3 years.
Yes.
If there's any abnormality, then you're guided by your doctor what to do next.
Exactly.
Now, as we said, we're looking at HPV being the actual root cause of cervical cancer. So we can theoretically completely eliminate this through HPV vaccination.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So there is a vaccine that has been around since, I think, 2006 that we can administer to our boys and girls to prevent them in the long term contracting this virus. Tell me, what age do we start to vaccinate? Who do we vaccinate? And how often? What's the dosage? What does the schedule look like?
So HPV vaccine, if you know, many people are not aware, was actually a really significant medical breakthrough. It's the first ever anti-cancer vaccine. It was subjected to multiple trials. It's not just been around for a year or two. It's actually been around for a very long time. Some people worry about safety. It's an extremely safe vaccine. I've given all my kids the vaccine. It is, however, designed as a preventative vaccine. So you really want to catch the age group before any sexual exposure. So you want to start around age 9, 10. It's now on every child's immunization card from the Ministry of Health. Okay. It's still under optional, but not compulsory yet. So around that age group you start. We advocate 2 doses, 6 months apart. It can be used up until age 25, even in those young women and young boys who've even been exposed. Then you can still vaccinate them because studies have shown they will get some benefit. However, if you're in your 40s, 50s, and you're thinking, let me do HPV vaccine, it's probably not going to protect you, and you still need to keep up with your regular pap smears.
So if I have a teenager who's about to go to university, like our scenario, and had not been vaccinated, and has not been sexually active at all, can I still give him or her the vaccine?
Yeah, they would
at the age of 18, 19?
They would be ideal candidates for the vaccine.
And we're doing boys and girls?
Yes, it's licensed for boys and girls.
I really need you to underscore this with the viewers, why boys should be getting the HPV vaccine.
Right, so it's all about protecting the population and protecting the girls. Obviously, the girls get it because we don't want them to get cervical cancer. HPV is a cause of not just cancer of the female reproductive organs, but HPV can actually cause cancers of the male reproductive organs as well. And that's one of the reasons for vaccinating the boys. Those cancers, however, are less common than cervical cancer. But we do want to get some degree of herd immunity, which means if you vaccinate the boys from HPV, some of the girls will be protected as well because they would not have HPV and therefore not infect women. Ideally, a good rule is once you've not been exposed, which means once you've not had sex, regardless of the age, you should be vaccinated. I think it's a good idea to start around the standard 5 time or the Form 1. If you have to catch up later on, you can. And for the older age group, again, if you've never had sex, then it's still a good idea to have the vaccine then.
So should mothers, fathers out there ask specifically, can I get the HPV vaccine for my kid? And when they reach that age, that 9 to 14 age group, ask for it, because it's not necessarily going to be given to you if they're in the health center.
No, it is opportunistic. You have to be aware of it. You have to know about it. Unfortunately, it's not currently given in all the schools. I think that is one thing that sometimes ensures really good coverage when you give it to school children. But, of course, you have to have parental consent. And I think it's to reassure parents. It's a very safe vaccine. There are minimal to no side effects, which is some pain at the injection site. It does not cause any long-lasting effects. And it's preventing a cancer. And it's preventing a cancer that I see every day in my office. And it's disheartening because cervical cancer is the one I can prevent by vaccination plus screening, but it happens to be the one I see the most.
If a woman comes into your office that you suspect has cervical cancer, what sort of investigations she would expect to undergo to diagnose something like this?
Yeah, so it may have been she had bleeding problems, she may have had pelvic pain, she may have come with an abnormal pap smear result, and would require a biopsy.
Right.
A biopsy is done from the cervix, and that usually can be done just in an office setting. It doesn't have to be under an anesthetic.
She needs to see a gynecologist, though.
A gynecologist, a specialist, should do the biopsy. And depending on those results, once it's sent to a qualified pathologist, if that shows cancer, then we go down a pathway of staging, which then determines treatment. Having said that, if cervical cancer is caught early, it's almost always cured. Women do very well with the appropriate treatment done in the appropriate time. But we have about 10 to 15 years to catch these changes even before they develop, because it is a disease that literally does not develop overnight. So you really want to focus a lot on prevention.
Do you think enough is being done in our society, in our country, to, one, educate women, well, I shouldn't even say women, but educate our population about the need for the HPV vaccine to prevent and to early detect with the screening, plus the HPV testing? Is enough being done?
There could always be more. There could always be more.
I feel like more should be done.
I mean, the figures speak for themselves. In Trinidad, we diagnose just about over 200 cases of cervical cancer a year. It should be closer to zero.
Because it's preventable.
It is. It's preventable.
The one cancer that you could prevent. So we could actually we could eliminate this.
We could.
Theoretically, if everybody were to buckle down, do the HPV vaccination.
Yes.
As well as the early screening.
Yes.
And regular screening.
Yes. I mean, our issue here nationally, we do have screening available. We have vaccination available. It's a little bit haphazard, not streamlined. What we don't have is a national screening program where we look at the population that is at risk and invite everyone. We monitor it. We put it on a database. We remind you in a few years, please come back and do it again.
Yes.
And that's what many countries have. For instance, the UK, Australia, North America, they have fixed screening programs where it's all documented and you have a certain call and recall system. So their cervical cancer figures are almost negligible.
So there's room for improvement in our system. And well, thankfully we have you to champion that cause.
Yeah, oncologists don't only like to treat cancer, we want to prevent it. That's even more important.
And save lives.
So, yep. Yes,
so
for sure.
We're all out of time. I'm so sorry.
Yes.
And I know we could talk on and on about this.
Thank you very much.
But like I do all my guests, if there's one piece of advice, one golden nugget of information that you want to leave the viewers out there about cervical cancer, what would that be?
I think it's for all women to ask themselves, when was your last pap smear? And if you haven't had one within the last year or two, please go in and have one. And for all the men out there to ask their female relatives or friends, when was their last pap smear? Because it's such a simple test that gives us a world of information to prevent a cancer. And if I had to say one last thing, again, it would be vaccination for the younger population.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for having me, and it was a pleasure being here.
Thank you.
My name is Dr. Joanne Williams-Carroll, and I am the Director of Behavioral and Mental Health at the Community Hospital. At the Community Hospital, we believe in nurturing mind, body, and soul. Through our counseling and chaplaincy program, we will provide you with support and strength you need to help with your mental and emotional well-being. Give us a call.
The Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist,
where good private health care is affordable.
You are watching Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Just give an overview of what exactly is that split arrangement.
Now you don't need to register nothing. You don't need. We can do that another time. But then it becomes a hit, and then everybody starts to want to claim.
The laws that predate many of the independent countries' constitutions are going to be those colonial laws.
We know there are an infinite amount of circumstances that would lead to a murder.
I have a great idea and, I have a great concept.
but until it's actually expressed, it does not become intellectual property.
Accomplishments or targets of a forensic accountant is to quantify what may have been lost.
We believe with different criminals and we manipulated the law and we exploited the system.
A responsible journalist will reach out to the person who they have the information on for a comment.
As always, we appreciate you starting your day with us. Let's get into this morning's first conversation. Is the country's healthcare system more at risk more than ever? Why it has remained unaddressed for so long?
Political parties get lots of cash, big cash from financiers, and then when they get that now, you can't account for it.
But it's really the specialist nurses who we are in a greater shortfall for.
We can tap into the resources and have them, at least form some mentorship programs.
Highlight our food systems, and which will attract persons from all over the world to come and experience something that actually supports the local economy.
We're lucky that we have a vibrant legal system that allows change to take place, and it's not that matters are just swept under the carpet and discrimination is allowed to be perpetrated.
A lot of people don't know that there were attempts to ban the carnival, suppress the carnival.
Today, Chef Emmanuel from Food Hall is going to show us his take on a classic, the lentil soup. It's hearty, it's beautiful, and it's quite nutritious. Chef?
Thank you, Doc.
Stroke is a leading cause of death and disability worldwide. Globally, 1 in 4 adults over the age of 25 will have a stroke in their lifetime.
Usually you would then have a conversation with the relatives, let them know exactly what's the status, what you were thinking.
We are not really ignoring them. We are acting on the patient at hand, after which we tend to communicate to them.
Yeah.
WESN.
You are watching Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Just give an overview of what exactly is that split arrangement.
Nah, you don't need to register nothing. You don't need, we can do that another time. But then it becomes a hit, and then everybody starts to want to claim.
The laws that predate many of the independent countries' constitutions are going to be those colonial laws.
We know there are an infinite amount of circumstances that would lead to a murder.
I have a great idea and, I have a great concept, but until it's actually expressed, it does not become intellectual property.
Accomplishments or targets of a forensic accountant is to quantify what may have been lost.
We believe we defend criminals and we manipulated the law and we exploited the system.
A responsible journalist will reach out to the person who they have the information on for a comment.
We are tackling the hard-hitting topics, some controversial topics, some topics we sweep under the rug. You don't always have to forgive in a relationship for it to move forward.
If it is you are in a situation where you forgive the person, but to the detriment of yourself, what are you really doing?
It is very uncommon for somebody in the younger age group to have dementia.
Atheists don't not believe.
Is that I can't disprove God, but you also can't prove God, so we cannot have a stalemate.
We'll focus on the woman who's being the victim, or the man who's being the victim. We exclude the children.
Folks are trying to study the underlying brain mechanism to figure out how does this particular disorder happen in the brain? How is the brain processing this?
Don't worry about AI, worry about humans working with AI.
Are you willing to learn new skills to stay relevant for the future job market? That's the challenge that people are going to struggle with.
This is 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson. The distance from where we should be in the world in going forward on our commitments with climate change.
The effects of climate change that cannot be accounted for. It's called loss and damage, and we're seeing loss and damage happening so much more in this decade and the previous decade.
The principal term there was this question of the correspondent banking issues.
That is why we're trying to build capacity with this country here, Trinidad and Tobago, and other countries in the region.
Man is not showing any signs of stopping or even slowing down. More than half of the forest in Trinidad is already gone.
All the plants and all the animals and all of the nice clean water and fresh air and everything had to be on this planet for humanity to have a chance.
We have small change when it comes to countries that can take decisions, and when they speak, the world listens.
The General Assembly is a very democratic forum. And Trinidad and Tobago has the same vote as Canada, in spite of the obvious difference in size.
This is Face of Sports, WESN Content Capital. How you felt about the kiss on the lip?
That's the business. I'm nothing to do with that.
I find that was distasteful.
The national senior team, whether you like it or not, that is the model for all other teams to follow.
I'm assuming that the regional requirement may be a much stricter requirement.
This is not about Pro League and Super League. This is a league run by the Normalization Committee that I'm responsible for.
Nobody expected FIFA to fund this arrangement.
If we don't get a professional attitude towards this, we are doomed for failure.
You break the balance, trip the leg, control the body.
They ain't gonna stand put forever.
Why you want the Chiefs to lose so? Why you want the Chiefs to lose so?
They already have two. Lamar don't
Why?
have.
You're jealous because you know the Chiefs getting closer to the Patriots. Let's go to the last part.
No.
Let's go to the last part.
My name is Dr. Stephen Carroll.
the CEO at Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist, and we are committed to making good private healthcare affordable.
For all your medical needs, including dental, radiology, laparoscopy, behavioral and mental health, along with many other services, contact us for more information at 235-5479.
Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist,
where good private health care is affordable.
The home of Caribbean content is growing, and we welcome you to be a part of the #1 platform for young personalities who are driven to make a positive impact in society. As we continue to reach every corner of Trinidad and Tobago through our daily broadcasts, our social media pages, or through our 75+ digital billboards across the nation, contact us to learn about our competitive rates via marketing at wesncc.com or call us at 628-5835. WESN Content Capital, television with a difference.
Of regional states.
After Vietnam, he arrived today in Malaysia. Now, unlike Vietnam, which trades far less with China than it does with the United States, Malaysia has kept China as its top trading partner for over a decade. It's also a major energy producer and the world's 5th largest exporter of liquefied natural gas. During the visit, Xi is expected to discuss a free trade agreement between China and ASEAN, as Malaysia is currently chair of the regional bloc. Luke Schrager has more.
A warm welcome for Xi Jinping in Kuala Lumpur as the Chinese president arrived for a 3-day visit where trade is right at the top of the agenda.
It's always important. Also is facing these new challenges on tariffs.
With a $25 billion trade surplus with the United States last year, Malaysia is facing tariffs of 24%, currently on a 3-month hold, and local businesses are scrambling for new markets. That leaves Beijing as Malaysia's largest trading partner with a well-timed opportunity as it seeks to show itself as the standard bearer for stability and free trade. Hot on the heels of signing a raft of deals in Vietnam, Xi is also likely to be discussing further ties with the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, of which Malaysia currently holds the rotating chair.
Now the negotiations on version 3 of the China-ASEAN Free Trade Area have come to an end, both sides will expand mutually beneficial cooperation in emerging the green economy and supply chain connectivity.
That regional supply chain connectivity, though, is precisely what has irked Washington in recent months, as it seeks to weed out Chinese exports funneled through third-party nations to avoid eye-watering tariffs levelled at Beijing.
Meanwhile, China asking its airliners not to purchase Boeing jets.
Well, Bloomberg has reported that the Chinese government ordered domestic airlines not to take any further deliveries of jets from the US aerospace giant and also to stop buying aeroplane parts from American companies. It marks the latest in the escalating trade war between China and the United States, and yet another setback for Boeing that's been struggling to recover from the fallout of last year's labor strike and safety crisis. China's 3 largest airlines had together planned to take delivery of around 180 Boeing planes over the next 3 years. Higher tariffs imposed by Donald Trump could have consequences on the aviation sector as a whole. In the US, Delta has said it will defer deliveries of Airbus, French maker, jets rather than pay higher costs. Now, Boeing shares dropped as Donald Trump accused China of reneging on a major deal. Overall market sentiment, though, has been mostly positive. Wall Street's main indexes are moving higher following a global rally. European stocks ended in a rally for a second day in a row, with London and Frankfurt advancing more than 1%. Major car makers got a boost after Donald Trump hinted on Monday that the auto sector could get some tariff reprieve. His 25% levies on all car imports have been in effect since earlier this month, but the US president said he was looking at a
and LVMH having not such a great day on
the stock market. Well, LVMH's stock fell around 8% today, a day after the group reported a 2% decline in sales in the first quarter of this year, missing analyst expectations. LVMH generates a quarter of its revenue in the United States and also owns high-end champagne and cognac brands. As its share price fell, it was overtaken in market capitalization by rival Hermès, which it once famously tried to acquire. François.
Now, meanwhile, Birmingham, it's set to host Paris Saint-Germain in the Champions League later return leg of the quarterfinals. And there could be not the smell of success, but a whiff of the stench of garbage when Paris Saint-Germain...
That's right. Britain's second city is now in its 7th week of a strike by municipal refuse workers after the latest pay offer by the city council was rejected by workers. Residents are having to contend with uncollected rubbish that's leaving the streets prey to rats. Oliver Farry has more.
For 6 weeks now, the streets of Birmingham have been littered with overflowing bins as the refuse workers' strike continues. Bins have been left uncollected, forcing residents to haul their rubbish to municipal dumps, with teeming refuse attracting rats.
It's just been very inconvenient, and I've had to just make an effort to go to the tip more, to be honest. But I think what I don't like is seeing it everywhere in the area.
The source of the dispute is a new pay offer that unions have unanimously voted to reject.